Hello, Cage community, friends, automotive community, everybody. So thankful to be here today with some returning friends and partners of mine. We've got Scott and we've got Justin with Motives, and we're excited because we had a conversation before, and I'll let them give some highlights about that conversation if in case you missed that show. But there's been a lot, here lately. When you think about consumer experience, when you think about data, you think about privacy, there's so many topics. And we know right now so much focus has been on we need to sell more cars. Customers, they're scared. I'm not going to say scared, but the concerns is a better word about affordability, is a big topic right now and experience. But we have to make sure that we're being proactive in all areas of our dealership, not just on the marketing front to get more leads, but to make sure that the experience is being dialed in all areas. So excited. Thank you so much, Scott and Justin, for being here again. I'll let you all take the floor and introduce yourselves real quick, and then one of you can kind of give a highlight overview of what Motives is all about.
Yeah, perfect. My name is Scott Trainor. I'm the director here for the Automotive division at Motives. Our solution for auto is Check My Driver. Many of you guys know me. For those who don't, I came from the franchise world. I worked retail since I was 19 in dealerships. And now I'm over here delivering a solution that, in my opinion, is game changing. I would have loved to have it while I was at the dealer, but I'm glad to be the one introducing it into the market.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for having me. I'm Justin Silver, returning back graciously to chat here today. I am the co-founder and chief operating officer here at Motives. My background isn't directly in automotive, but tangentially. My background's in insurance, and I did have a lot of exposure to the automotive industry through auto insurance and relationships with dealers, stemming all the way back to my early days as an insurance agent. And so, yeah, I'm super grateful to be here, and look forward to the chat today.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And so for the people that did miss the first episode, would either of you, either Justin or Scott, just kind of give us like a 1 to 2 minute overview of what Motives is all about and how it helps dealers in the automotive industry?
Yeah, go for it, Scott.
Yeah, so Motives is delivering a insurance verification solution. We also have a monitoring aspect, but it can be used at any life point where you guys need to verify insurance, whether it be the traditional method of on delivery, making sure that the vehicle can leave that has adequate and active insurance, that all the proper coverage is there, lien holder, etc. But we found our way evolving into different segments, whether it's the loaner rental side, when you're talking in the service department, creating a better guest experience through an early verification of insurance. Some dealerships have even brought it into as early as the test drive piece, which is kind of why we're here today, really because of the data that we're able to gather and more information on the customer, obviously helping them guide them through a better journey, as well as facilitating the transactions for the dealers.
So what in the world did people do before?
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, sitting on the other side, this is kind of where I intersect this problem, right? I was at the other side in an agency, and guess what? We get these phone calls. Mm-hmm. Or you leave for the day and you come back and there's a lot of tasks and activities to do to get back to folks, or after the weekend. It's very manual, right? So auto dealerships ask for your ID card, is the most common process that exists today. They ask for the ID card. And one of the things we talked about last time was the fact that this ID card is actually just a point in time document. And so actually verifying actually requires you confirming with the insurance provider that what's on the ID card is actually accurate and active, and that it's in force. And currently right now in the United States, just across the board, there's about a 14% uninsured rate in the United States. So of anyone coming in, there's a high likelihood that they have no insurance, even though they might present a card. That doesn't mean it's fraud. It just means they may not know, because people cancel, non-pay. A lot of times they do know, but, or they present the wrong ID card, quite frankly. And so you haven't actually confirmed the insurance you think you are. And the other side is there's a big problem with what's called underinsured. people generally aren't carrying enough insurance. And that's where what Scott was mentioning, where part of our solution, what differentiates us in the market is we're not just looking to see, do they have insurance? We're making sure that they have the right insurance that is required in that moment, the right coverages for a lease or for a finance or for a rental car, so forth and so on.
That's huge. And so I want to ask either one of you a question. Have you seen dealers use this partnership? And to me, it's almost, it could be like part of a dealership's why buy. But have you seen them use this from a marketing standpoint to educate customers that this is how we do insurance, here at our dealership? Has anybody seen that from any of your stores, like taking that?
We're starting to see that. And that's where what Scott's talking about is, as we started realizing that we need to continue to reduce friction and, make it super easy for the customers to get engaged into the process, there is an educational component. So I think from the last time that we've talked about, we've introduced an ability to present a link and a QR code that can be incorporated and embedded into communications. If you're making an appointment to come into the dealership, whether that's for service or to engage in a new purchase or to explore, those appointment communications, we're starting to integrate with outsourced BDC components, as well as dealer communications with their customer, to start to educate not just on the fact that, hey, save time before you arrive, do this process, and here's how it works. But two other things really become super critical. One, for their data security, privacy, as well as the dealers. With the FTC regulations going on and customers' concern around the sensitivity of their data, the education opportunity is to do it by doing right and to show that you're proactively caring for their dealers. So that is a key element to the messaging that dealerships are starting to push out. That's to, hey, for your safety and for ours, we want to make sure that we take precautions to safeguard. Here's this simple, easy process. Scan this QR code, and in 3 simple steps, you can be verified.
Yeah, because let me ask this question then. If somebody is watching this and that maybe they do a lot of online deals, or they get a lot of customers that are acquiring from different states and stuff like that. So if somebody doesn't have a solution like in the old school way, what do they do today to verify that customer's insurance without having a tool that has a little bit more privacy to it?
Yeah, I mean, in some of those cases, there's a browse upload, a deck page, or you fill out some information in a form collection, or they might capture some of it over the phone. But ultimately, what's still left is the dealership still has to confirm with the insurance company. And so we kill both sides of that equation. It's not just about getting the information from the customer, it's also confirming with the insurance company. So we flipped that on its head. We said, I don't need to ask the customer for all of its information. All I need them to do is to connect to their insurance company, and then the insurance company safely and securely submits that data through our system, and it determines whether or not they're active and adequate, and presents those results in a very simple red, green, yellow, like everything's good, green light, there's an issue, here's what the issue is, yellow light, red light, their insurance is canceled, or they, don't have the right coverage. And so it's that simple. So that's kind of what's happening is now no longer does the customer have to send the information at all. We've just eliminated that, which, if you think about it, some people ask, well, like, does that process introduce friction? We never asked them to do something before. And I'm like, no, you have. How did they get the card? They had to go out to their car. Oh, it's the wrong one in the glove box. Or I need the deck page because I need to see the coverages, right? Or the binder. Well, how do you go get that? I call my insurance agent. I send an email. I wait for them to get back. I go back and forth. Or I log in online in today's day and age, and I download it. Well, the way our process works is no different. You log in online, and instead of downloading it, you're done. That's all you got to do. Is log in.
Yeah, it almost sounds too simple and too good to be true when you think about how it used to be. Were you going to say anything, Scott, or add to that?
Yeah, and it's really part of the expanding on what Justin said about the outsourced BDCs. It's really part of the process and the guest experience and we're really starting to see a lift in the service department. Those that do have a loan or a rental program, is their either in-house BDC or their outsourced BDC at the time of booking the appointment. Hey, are you going to be needing a loan or a rental? Great, perfect. I'm going to send you this link. If you can verify your insurance before arriving. So now you're saving the advisor's time. You're making them more efficient. Obviously, less frustrated because they didn't spend that half an hour on the phone verifying insurance. Keeping the dealer secure, making sure that the customer has insurance, and making sure everybody's compliant. And it's a smooth transaction at the store.
Gosh, I love that. I love the time savings as much as I love how modern that sounds, because I ask these questions because on a call before we hopped on this show, one of the partners that we have was really trying to be proactive, and they're just like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. It might have been a buy at home kind of program or something like that. And I said, but we have to make sure that before we do this, all areas of this experience are covered, because so there's so many times we have these digital tools on our websites and we're like, yeah, we're going to promote this, but it's just one part of it. And to me, I think the customer needs to see it in all parts of it for it to feel good, because it's no different. What we're talking about here is no different to me than when a dealership adopts a digital retailing mindset and they want to put a tool or a widget on their website. But then when the customer shows up, they're printing off a bunch of paper and then they're asking the customer to fill out a finance app again. It's just like, wait a second. So to me, this carries on for those dealers that are really proactive, that the last thing the customer wants to do is print something off, take a picture, scan it with their phone, and then send it over and text it to the salesperson. So then that salesperson can take it and then send it to the F&I person, or directly goes to F&I. So that's what I really get excited and encouraged by these conversations. It's just like, I feel like this fits a gap in that online experience that I think most dealerships, we skip over it because we're so focused on the digital retailing selling solution without thinking about all those other components that go with it.
Yeah, well said, Duran. So it big topic of conversation right now from an e-retailing and a digital kind of experience standpoint, that's been coming up is like, what's left after that happens? And then they're going to go show up. We're asking that question, and we know it's a leading question. It's like, well, what's left? Well, in almost every case, the insurance piece is left till they arrive back at the dealership, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this missed piece. That's just like, is it the only missing piece? I don't know that I'd go that far. It sounds like, some of what you're seeing, it kind of varies in terms of what's left, filling out an app again, doing all that stuff. But for sure, across the board, the common theme we've heard commonly, fail not, is insurance. And so when the reality is, even if in a lot of cases, the insurance that someone's going to present and have is going to go, even in the best case, smoothly, it's still 15 to 30 minutes to go through that process, which is just time that doesn't need to be had when someone's arriving and they did all this stuff up front. And so we've done a couple things, partially driven by that, but also driven by some other needs. Is that since we last talked, we've gone live with our ID verification. So we've embedded, it's called Check My ID, and there's two flavors of it, Check My ID and Check My ID Plus. The first does, through the same experience with 2 more clicks, snap front, snap back of your driver's license. It has 2 features, primary features. One, it checks to make sure that the ID is authentic, and so it does an initial kind of authenticity check. Is this a real, identification? And do I have signals that this person is who they say they are? And then second is a synthetic fraud check, which goes out to third-party databases and checks to make sure that this isn't a bad actor. You're not on any terrorist watch lists or bad actor watch lists and all that kind of good stuff. Combining those two, and the reason that triggered me to even bring this up now is that one of the things I say is, it's like peanut butter and jelly. Driver's license and insurance ID card go hand when you get pulled over. License, registration, insurance. Yep. They go together. They get asked at the same time. The reason in dealerships that they're asked separate in the purchase process is because the insurance verification takes a long time. Historically,
Right.
What now that it doesn't take a long time and it can happen in 30 seconds, digitally, safely, and securely, now they can come back together. So if someone in a digital retailing scenario can confirm their identification and their insurance situation, which, by the way, if and when something is an issue, they don't have enough coverage or their policy's canceled or whatever else, well, then that can all get remedied before they get there. And so now you're adding value because you're educating the customer. Hey, these are some additional things you can take care of before you arrive. It's continuing to not only enhance the time perspective, but reduce additional angst and frustration. Like, why didn't I? Now I'm sitting here even longer. You could have told me this before. So the intelligence that we're bringing back is providing value to both the dealer and their customer.
Yeah, and speaking on the guest experience, really, when you do introduce the solution early in the process, such as at the time of sale, when your guest comes back in those 3 to 6 months for service and they do need a loan or rental, as long as they haven't changed insurance companies or their credentials for their insurance, which most don't, well, you don't even need to ask the customer to do this step to verify. They've already given the consent at the time of delivery, and our system, all the advisor would need to do is push that button. So you want to talk about a seamless guest experience, you don't even need to ask them now. You have their appointment, perfect. You have a loaner, you press the button, great, you're good to go.
Wow. And I'm thinking in my head, it's terrible to admit this, but I can remember when you brought up the service part, Scott, like I can remember customers making that complaint because if you're being compliant at the dealership level, you should be getting a new form every time. And I would find different advisors and salespeople, what they would do is they would try to get an old one. Be like, man, we've already did this the last time they were here, whether it was last month, 3 months ago. And I can remember the customer feeling so weird. It's just like, why do we have to keep doing this every single time? Because in service, this happens a lot. And I think it's more frustrating to the customer to have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, filling out this new form. Here's your driver's license, all this stuff to scan. And I think that's massive. And then the time savings, of course, because it's nothing but a hiccup on the time.
It's funny you say that. Like, I don't know if when you go, it happens to me when I go to the doctor's office and they ask me for my ID, my insurance ID card again and again and again. It's so frustrating. It's like, no, and they have listen, we're going to ask you every time. Why? Because they have to make sure that it hasn't changed and it isn't valid. There's a reason for that, because then they won't get paid, right? So forth and so on. And so, it's a slightly different reason, but it exists. This is not like new insurance documents. That card only meant you have insurance when you got it. After that, like, you may not even work at the company that you got your insurance for, or you might not have paid your premium or whatever the case is. So that's why they have to do it. And when you realize that, you're like, okay, now I understand. I mean, most people, I get frustrated, and even though I know why they're doing it, so I'm like, no, nothing's changed. I told you. They're like, I'm like, so why do I have to hand it to you? They're like, we need to confirm.
Yeah. And what did I don't know if I asked this on the last show, but how do the insurance companies feel about this? Because, we're talking about the dealers, we're talking about the customers, but on the insurance side, are they for this, or sometimes are they against it a little bit? But how do they feel about this?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So there's two facets to this that I'll hit on, because one is the personal insurance, the auto insurance companies, right? Mm-hmm. So them and or their agents, depending on if they're a direct insurance company or they write through independent agents, there is a time savings. Think about the amount of calls back and forth and just operations that is there supporting the automotive industry at large associated with this process, right? If every dealer is actually doing its job to call, there's someone on that phone. Even though the dealer's waiting 30 minutes, the call's still going to take 15 minutes, right? So of the insurance company's time, that's on average, that call. And then if you're making a change, it could be 30 to 45 minutes potentially on the phone, right? Mm-hmm. And so they love it because it saves them time. And on the other side, for example, with the commercial insurers, the people who have the garaging policies or the dealer liability policies, they like it. And I'm seeing a movement where those companies, for a reason, they say you must check your insurance. There's a reason we even ask. Otherwise, Scott and I have said in the early days of this is like, if you're not actually going to check for real, like why bother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because the insurance companies, if you don't have the process to check, they're not going to pay the claims when the situation happens. Well, they say you must verify, and we are working with the insurance industry, and they are moving in the direction to realize that there is now a method to have a confirmed and auditable baseline for whether or not a dealer actually checked insurance and didn't go back in service and say, well, I had the card from last time, or I say I checked and sign off on the spot sheet that I did call when I didn't, right? There's now audible. And so eventually I can see the industry going to saying, I'm not going to pay claims unless you can prove that you verified. And so I think it's a critical imperative for dealers to take this seriously and not just sit there and say, well, I have insurance and expect that the insurance companies are going to keep paying claims when you didn't do your responsibility, No,
I think that's really good, because I figured on their side, they would probably like something that's a little bit more streamlined as well, because of employee efficiency reasons with their time, so it's, if they can keep their employees from doing, chasing back and forth and having to do so much more documentation when so much of this can be done electronically and kept up with data, then I feel like it should be a win-win for, again, there's a 3-part body here. You got the dealers, you've got the customers, and then you've got those insurance companies. So I thought that would be, I'm glad that you expanded on that a little bit, because I think that should give everybody listening to this some context. Like, this really could be a huge win.
I mean, if you just put it in perspective, only on new purchases, just new, on new and used cars, let's just call it, but purchases, 52 million times a year, times at a minimum on the carrier side, that's 15 minutes minimum of time savings times 52 million times. Think about the industry impact that can have by effectively eliminating those calls.
I'm trying to think, what are they going to do with that time? I'm like, what does everybody do with that time? Like, I know what dealers can do with that time, and we know what customers can do with that time, and whatever.
Well, it's 30 minutes to the dealer. Yeah, it's 30 minutes to the dealer, because they're waiting. They got to wait for someone to get on the phone, right? And at the carrier side. And so what's happening with the time post-COVID, the call centers are certainly strapped. There's less employees. The wait times are greater. So when you do need to talk to someone in those instances, they can be more responsive. They can lower the wait times, create a better experience for customers, for dealers, so forth. And so there's a big ripple effect all the way down that ultimately does impact the dealers, because there are times when you need to get on the phone. But imagine in that time they picked up on a first ring basis or a second ring, as opposed to waiting in a queue that says you're number 30th in line, right?
No, I love this. And so as you all evolve your solutions, because I'm hearing about QR codes and things to make it easier. What's next for Motives? Like, what do you see is going to be the next evolution to keep growing what you all are doing? Because this is really exciting.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I called you, and I was very excited to tell you about one of the new features we have out, and we've coined it Driver Insights. And that's really coming from our experience in automotive and delivering more to the dealer than just a simple insurance verification. Yes, the basis of the company and the importance is the insurance verification, making sure customers have active and adequate insurance at any given time during the dealer. But what more could we deliver of value to the dealer? And it's the data. We know right now in the market, everybody's talking about acquisition. Everybody's looking loyalty. Everybody's looking conquest. They're all looking also for first-party data. They don't want to go to auctions to buy cars anymore. Their marketing already cost them a fortune to gather new information and new leads. So with the Driver's Insights feature, what this simple insurance verification is able to deliver on top of that is a whole household profile. So when you're talking, just by the simple verification, you're getting for primary, obviously, driver's name, their VIN, year, make, model, but we also know what the wife is driving, what the kids are driving, also year, make, model, VIN, as well as many other details about their household. So where we're seeing dealers really implementing this, and they all see the value of the insurance verification, but some of them are like, because of what this is delivering on top of it, we are making it a mandatory process in our stores. So for example, if I have I do have a Toyota and I service it at the group down here local in Florida. Well, Ariana, my wife, has a Honda. that she did not purchase from that group or service from the group. Well, guess what? That group also owns a Honda store. And just by doing the verification on me when I come to pick up my loan or rental, they now know that she has a Honda. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to try Conquest or bring her to the Toyota? Are they going to try bring her to their Honda store? Are they going to try sell her servicing, sell warranties on their Honda? It's opened up a whole nother realm of what they're able to do that the customer didn't have to get questioned about. And would the customer have been forthfront about? We're able to unravel all of this for the dealer in terms of data that they can make actionable items on.
And can you see the miles as well of the car?
We can see what no. So what we can see is what they tell their insurance company is how many miles they drive in the car, but we don't see the actual we don't know the odometer of the odometer of the vehicle.
Oh wow! And so, I mean, there's so many different ways that you could spin that. Either whether just from, collecting data is one thing, but knowing household is a whole nother. This is where I get all excited because I'm all about CRMs. Like that's really my whole business is helping dealerships manage their CRMs better so they can sell cars in less time and more efficiently. And so that when you add in something to where you can now get into the households, this really aligns with dealer strategies, or at least it should be, because too many times we get so one-dimensional, focus on Scott, that's our customer, and we're not thinking about Scott, that's our household. That's somebody that we can really grow a loyal fan base through. And then you just mentioned that, you're better having a vehicle as well. And, I'm sure many other consultants, trainers out there like myself are always coaching the sales teams to ask that question, right? Hey, is there anybody else in your household, other than yourself that might be looking for a vehicle next? Well, how unique would it be to already actually kind of know that information, but you're just asking it just to kind of get deeper insights from that customer about that customer's driving behaviors. So yeah, if we don't know the miles, then I might ask Scott, hey, is there anybody else in your household that's driving? Yeah, my wife. Okay, well, how many miles does she drive a year, and how's she like on her vehicle, and how many miles are on her car now? And then we can finally get to that point of either introduction to service or introduction to sales, or if you are a larger group, then you can do with that as you may. But I think that's huge, because if you can take, I don't like to say the words advantage of that data, but if you can get deeper, build a deeper connection with your customer base and understanding and knowing that data, this could it would be a wise investment and a wise choice for somebody if they're really going to take that time to get into it.
The customer
data. Sorry, John. Yeah, this data is live too. So when we're pulling this, it's not from a database that came from the DMV 3-6 months ago, a year ago, or from a piece of mail that got AI scanned. When we pull this is true. We ping the carrier. What we are delivering is real time. So I love a strategy. One of the OEMs right now, one of the domestics, has a Conquest cache on a different brand. So if there's a different brand in the household, now imagine you had built up this data within the system, and great, let's run the report. Now, how many of our customers have this other brand in their household? You have now opened up leads that you didn't know you had at that time, just by being able to react on the data given the market, what you guys are able to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, we're only scratching the surface. I mean, if there's a calling out to the people watching your show, is bring those use cases forward, because we want to partner with you to unlock the value of this data for your dealership. We're calling it weaponizing it, because right now there's a couple of things that we're seeing, and I think there are some CRMs that maybe are better equipped than others, but ultimately, having the data is one thing, but being able to use it is another. And so I think we're at a place where what we're working on right now is how do we weaponize that so that they can take advantage. It's one thing to pop it up in front of the sales guy in a moment, but how does he understand, or she understand, what it's telling them or how to use it? And so we can do some of that in the education, but that's where there's a lot of sales and training and whatever else. But in today's day and age, the technology should just be so prescriptive as to sit there and say, hey, by the way, in Scott's case, the Honda, change the conversation that Duran you mentioned a moment ago, and not say how many miles do you have on your car. It's, hey, Scott, how many miles is on Ari's Honda that's sitting at home, per 1999 Honda Accord? All of a sudden, the intimacy level, your understanding of me is much better. It's not creepy. It's not. In today's day and age, information's everywhere. To understand, what's going on. Or they come in and you're talking about a trade-in, and you're sitting there and saying, "Look, is a trade-in in scope? Are you thinking about trading in your Tundra or the 1999 Honda Accord at home?" That's a fundamental different conversation than the anxiety I know I get when someone comes in and I'm trying to negotiate, on a car, and they're trying to size me up on a trade-in. I feel on the defense instantly, because I feel like but if they came to me and started proactively talking to me about it,
Yeah.
and I feel like they know me, guess what I do? I feel more inclined to be sharing and to, answer the question, as opposed to it being this vague, abstract question. It's just I feel like it just changes the dynamic in the conversation. I use the term intimacy. It's all about intimacy, and intimacy leads to loyalty, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you add in to the intimacy is that educational piece too. And you mentioned that when you just did your talk track, like it's that why I'm reaching out, because we really are going to be in a huge automotive shift, because it's kind of aligns with that CDP. So are you both familiar with CDP? When people mention that, it's that
I'm
customer
not familiar.
So they're talking about customer data profile. And so that's where, if we're talking about Scott, it's not only what does he drive, it's not only what's in his household, but it's about what's Scott doing, what's his lifestyle moments, his social media accounts. All this stuff is flowing into one customer view. So then that way, us, dealers, whoever in the automotive industry, when the team is looking at that customer's information, when they pull up Scott in their records, they're going to have a much deeper view about what Scott's all about, where he's working, how long he's been there, probably his income, all these things. So at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how well, to your point, Justin, how well do you really connect with people to not make them feel scared and weirded out? So you have to have genuine conversations and really be interested in what is that household doing right now? Are there any problems? Are there any situations that they're running into with their transportation that we can help? And so I think through education, even bringing back really smart, and I know people will be like, man, I can't believe he said this, but bringing back smart direct mail, like kind of those postcards with the QR codes on there, I still believe there's relevance in there when they're done the right way and they're sent to the right people and they're followed up the right way as well, to where it doesn't feel as creepy. Because my wife, she gets stuff. Both of us get these things in the mail all the time. Hey, your vehicle's worth this. Would you like to bring it in? And it's just like, she said one time, she said, how did this dealership get our information? Because we never bought a car from there. I was like, listen, at this day and age, dude, everybody knows everything about everyone. So what it comes down to is, what are you actually going to say and how are you going to communicate it to make sure that it does feel intimate and that the customers feel that you truly do care? Because at some point, it's kind of like we're all playing cards, but we all know the hand that everybody has.
Yeah, exactly. It's a level. Yeah, exactly. Leveling the playing field. And I think if I distill down what you're saying to something, pretty pointed, it takes everything from transactional to a relationship instantly. That's the difference between a transaction and a relationship. Fundamentally, is like listening, caring, and sometimes they don't have to tell you. Like, we're in the day and age where I should just expect I hate nothing more than someone give me this long form fill. When I came out of the insurance industry, into automotive side of it, the big trend, and you probably will see this, is when you go online to get an insurance quote or in other things, you used to have to fill out all these big long forms and answer all this stuff. No, all they need to know is your zip code, like your name and where do you live, maybe your phone number. And next thing you know, they're not asking you all the questions. Why do you think that is? Because they already know all the answers. Once they know who you are, all of a sudden they know everything else. And so that concept changed the game. So it happens in interpersonal as well. When you're dealing with someone and sitting there and saying, if I've got to ask you by the third, fifth, 10th question, they're fatigued. Well, you don't need to ask them as many questions. Focus on things that matter. Like, how their day is going and or how their kids are, or something that might be more relational, something you've talked to them about previously, so forth. So
Yeah, and I think another huge value here is I see a lot of CRMs where they don't really have like that data migration or that automatic data update. And even if they do, we don't know where they're actually getting their data from. They might not have the partnership that you all have in terms of
right.
getting that data
Right.
for a variety of reasons. So to me, as a dealer, if I'm a dealer listening to this, I'm seriously considering looking at like, man, this is not just about insurance now. This is about our customer experience and data management. And I don't want to get too techy into the DMS and CRM, but the value of dealers now, what I'm seeing and what I'm reading and researching is the value of dealers' data is just as important, if not more, than their brick and mortar business as it is. Like that data that they have and the more accurate data. So imagine if you're a dealership and you have real good, accurate data and you understand how to communicate to customers and you're learning from this data and you're talking to your customers too, getting insights from them. That to me is way more important than, I'm not going to say than stocking the right cars, because you got to make sure you stock the right cars. You got to use data for that. But to me, having that information is so vital as we move into this 2025 to 2030. I think these next 5 years, the dealers that will win will be the ones that really get serious about their data management and keeping it fresh and updated, and then training their teams how to connect with their customers, already knowing the data about these people to not make these people feel like, weirded out and stuff like it's the end of the world. It's like, oh my gosh, all this bot technology. Like, no, all this technology was meant for us to really hyper focus on what Justin just said, customer experience, because the playing field has been leveled. You've got the little dealer that sells 50 cars a month and the big dealer that sells 500 cars a month. Whoever manages their customers better and their data better is going to be the dealership that wins. And so I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, that's awesome perspective, Duran. I think to go on I want to chime on one of the items you said, and then just pile on a point here. I think that brings some of this home. Going back to the one point when you talked about like stocking the right cars and what's more like, the data that we're talking about has a huge proposition. First, you got to know what cars you want to stock. But as Scott said before, our solution helps them go find those cars. And by the way, cars that people have bought previously are certainly an indicator of other cars that they might like. So it also provides intelligence to maybe optimizing what cars you should have, as well as it is finding where to go find those cars and buy them first party, as opposed to or get them into a new one just like it, at the right moment. And so that's so I just wanted to connect the dots there. And what that leads me to, and the thing that I think brings it back around, is for us, this is an outcome of using the insurance verification solution that we've created, right? We are doing this uniquely in the market. Others are not doing this. And so part of the reason we were continuing to look, how do we drive more value to the dealers as a byproduct of doing the thing that our mission is set to do, which is to protect the dealers through a frictionless insurance verification process. We do it so they don't have to. That's why we exist. But change is difficult for them. So how do you continue to tip the scales where the critical imperative and the value that comes out the other side outweighs this other thing? I'm cool with that as a business. From our business standpoint, I'm totally fine with that, because this gives way to that. And so that's why we did this, and that's where we're at, is how do we unlock that, so that doing this, because we want to accelerate the pace of adoption in the dealers, because those who do and get access to the data will gain competitive advantage by building up their data set, by understanding their customers early. They don't have to, data management is a whole topic in and of itself, but they don't have to worry about where this data is coming from or where it's coming from the insurance company. It's accurate. And so there's a lot that's happening in terms of quality and control that are being instantly provided to them through this process, without them having to figure this out and deal with, the black market of data and where dealers go get their data from. I'm sure especially the marketing stuff. South Florida is infamous for this, right, Scott? You know, this data it's crazy. I mean, those people will sell you anything. We're not selling you the data. We're bringing you the data from the insurance company. So it's been verified. It's gone through motor vehicle reports, what's called a clue, a loss history, to figure out if there's been any accidents. They've gone through their synthetic fraud check. So we know they are who they say they are. They've been through all the rigorous financial institution screening to get an insurance policy. So think about what quality comes into that. It's pretty profound. I mean, we're early days of this. Like I said, the weaponization is the next step of this, because dealers like data's great, but as you said, it's how do we weaponize it? And so, as you're talking with dealers, Duran, or there's dealers that want to figure out and tap into it, we're looking to team and partner to do it. We have some early releases of it that are available, but there's so much more that it could do for your dealer. And listen, we're listening to you. I'd love to take all the genius inside our company for coming up with this, driver insights, but really it was our customers. We're just listening to them, and they're like, you're getting all the, and so we're like, yeah, totally. That's right. Let's add more value into this thing. Like, I would use this if I could get all the data. Well, you should use it for other reasons. But that's fine, right?
No, that's good, Scott. Anything to add, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with some things that I want to bring up off of what Justin just said. But I want to let you speak if you want. If you had anything.
No, I'll let you go at it. I know Justin.
Yeah, Justin fired me up. I'm like, man, we got to go another hour. But no, I do love the acquisition piece. I think it's a good build up to. I wouldn't recommend, hey, let's skip this so we can go after acquisition. But I feel like there's levels to the partnerships here, and I see the evolution. So I love that. But I will say to dealers, if you don't have an acquisition strategy currently, that I would add that to that 2025 and beyond statement, that you definitely want to have a first party acquisition strategy going in. And what I'll add as a little nugget to that is like, get a champion for that. I see a lot of stores, they'll say, we want to do this acquisition and we want to do this, but then they roll it out to the whole sales floor. But if you are a store listening to this and you want to go deeper into that, whether you move forward with a solution like this and you see the data and you want to or not, get a champion and it will execute so much better. But what I love that I heard Justin say, he said a question that the reason why you brought this solution up, or why you added it, you said, how do we add more value to our customers, to the dealer body? And so my challenge, and even for myself, for my own business, is we need to take that same question that Justin asked, and we need to apply it to our own business. So at the dealership level, how can we add more value to the customer experience? How can we add more value to the employee experience? And when we ask ourselves that question, that removes, let's discount the price some more, right? Because we're talking about value. We're not talking about, well, let's buy some more cars and let's stock more. No, we're talking about how can we bring more value to the experience. And so that's why I'm so thankful that that both Justin and Scott were here, because that was my goal here. When I talked to Scott, recently, and we are friends, but I value him just as much as an automotive professional, and Justin as well. But that's when I have these conversations with certain partners and people, that's all I'm thinking about is like, how can I provide more value to the Cage community and anybody that I'm tied to on social media that can benefit to help them grow what they're doing? Because at the end of the day, it helps grow the automotive industry forward. And that's what I'm all about. When my time's up, I want people to know that, like, hey, that was a dude that was constantly working on evolving the experience, both on the employee customer side. So I love that you said that, Justin, because it challenged me, and I hope it challenged dealers, that once you get done with this, how can you add more value to your customers and to your employees? And so if this is one of the solutions that you want to have, I would encourage you to reach out, give them a call, go to the website, check them out. But it would be putting you in a space that a lot of dealerships that I see and that I've seen across our industry that kind of put this under the rug. They kind of sweep it like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's not that big, until it becomes a big problem. So it is. So I want to thank you both for being here. Any last words that you guys have, or if you want to give them any other direction in terms of how to connect with you after this show.
Yep. So our site is checkmydriver.ai. So checkmydriver.ai, or you can reach me directly on my cell, call, text anytime. I'm always there for my dealer partners. It's 941-713-4976.
Yeah, and I'll just say Scott's the best guy to reach out to, and certainly get you connected with me. I'd love to chat with you. I'm talking with dealers all the time, continuing to learn and figure out how we can add more value to you. But I will give you one last plug, and Duran, hopefully we can come back in Q1 and talk about this, is the next evolution. It's always one more turn, is how do we, through our solution, we just talked about how we add value, more value to you, the dealer, but we have something in the works that adds value to your next customer. So even though Duran challenged you to think about it for yourself, know that we're thinking about it for you as well, and we have something coming. So stay tuned.
I'm fired up. All right. Well, Q1, you all hear it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Justin, for sharing your time.
Thanks for having us.
Until next time, everybody be well. Keep evolving. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank
you.